Okay, let's unpack this. For months, really, the aviation world was buzzing. What exactly is China's new tailless, heavy stealth fighter?
Right.
And the biggest mystery, it sounds almost silly now, was whether it even had a cockpit. I mean, that basic.
It's amazing, isn't it, how much speculation can fly around when you just don't have the hard facts. But like you said, those big questions are finally getting answers thanks to this newly emerged, much more detailed imagery and the analysis that's come with it.
Exactly. And that's really what this deep dive is all about. We're not just, looking at a cool picture. We want to dissect the design.
Get into the
Yeah,
details.
understand what these features really mean and figure out what this tells us about China's aerospace ambitions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're diving into this fresh imagery the expert takes. Our mission, for everyone listening, is simple. Get a clear picture of this, well, pretty major step in stealth tech and what it could mean down the line.
So, where should we start? I guess the obvious place is the thing that visually grabbed everyone, the cockpit canopy.
Definitely.
Because for quite some time, its actual configuration was a real puzzle.
You're absolutely right. Those first glimpses, the grainy ones, they really had people scratching their heads. But this latest imagery, it's definitive.
Mm.
You see this streamlined bubble canopy, and it melts right into the upper fuselage. It's a
Yeah.
very striking look.
And it's not just about looking sleek, is it? That seamless integration. I mean, if you think about basic stealth principles,
Right.
it's absolutely crucial for minimizing how radar waves bounce off it. Traditional framed canopies, they create loads of angles.
Yeah, exactly. Points for the radar to grab onto. The analysis calls this a continuous surface. Fewer bumps, fewer breaks.
Fewer returns.
Exactly. Fewer chances for radar to get a strong signal back. So, lower radar cross-section. It's basic stealth, but done really, really well here, it seems.
Precisely. So the takeaway isn't just, oh, it looks futuristic. It's that the design fundamentally messes with how radar sees the aircraft from above. Much harder to pick up.
Okay, I get that. And what about the look of the canopy itself? It seems tinted, and the analysis mentioned precise faceting.
Also very important. That's not just window tinting like on a car. It strongly suggests, specialized coatings are involved.
Ah,
And maybe even embedded electroconductive structures, fancy ways of saying materials designed to absorb or further dampen radar signals hitting the canopy.
so layer upon layer of stealth thinking, which explains why some experts are calling this a notable step forward for China's stealth engineering. That's pretty high praise.
It really is. And think strategically for a second. If that canopy is hard to see, especially for radars on the ground or flying lower, that's a huge advantage.
Right, like trying to spot it from an air defense site.
Exactly. It's almost like the plane is designed to hide its eyes from anything looking up. The analysis points to the recessed canopy profile and that sharp, high-angle chine line near the cockpit.
Uh-huh.
They work together to sort of shield the pilot's cabin from those lower-level threats. Pretty clever.
So in a dangerous situation, a high-threat environment, every little bit of reduced signature counts.
Massively. And this canopy design, it works with other features like the internal weapons bays, keeping missiles hidden inside,
Mm-hmm.
and what they call edge-aligned control surfaces, basically making sure the moving parts of the wings and tail, or lack thereof, also have stealthy shapes and alignments. It all adds up to better survival chances.
Okay. Now, speaking of the canopy, its size has kicked off another debate, hasn't it, about crew size? It looks quite long.
It does. It definitely looks long enough to suggest room for 2 crew members, one behind the other, a tandem layout.
And why would they go for 2 crew in a stealth fighter? What's the thinking there?
Well, it opens up possibilities for more complex missions. Think about, say, electronic warfare escort.
Right.
Managing all those complex jamming systems, countermeasures. Having a dedicated person, a weapon systems officer, or WSO, makes a huge difference. Or for coordinating complex strikes.
That makes a lot of sense. But the analysis does mention the alternative, a single seat. What's the trade-off?
The main trade-off is usually weight and agility. A single-seater is generally lighter, potentially nimbler.
Okay.
But given how long and uninterrupted that canopy looks, the analysis leans towards that tandem idea being increasingly plausible. It suggests they might be prioritizing those complex multi-role jobs.
Right. So potentially a 2-seat stealth fighter, incredibly advanced canopy. But the stealth focus goes way beyond just the cockpit area, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You look at the rest of the front end. that diamond-shaped forward fuselage and the really prominent shine line, those sharp edges running along the sides.
Uh-huh. Classic stealth shapes.
Exactly. Definitive stealth hallmarks. They're designed specifically to scatter radar waves away, not bounce them back to the sender. It's all about managing that radar cross-section, making the plane appear much smaller on radar than it actually is.
Like angling mirrors so they don't reflect light straight back at you?
That's a great analogy. And then there's that distinct blister under the nose.
Yeah, I saw that. What's the thinking there?
The expert consensus is that it almost certainly houses an advanced sensor package. Probably an electro-optical targeting system, EOTES, and an infrared search and track system, or IRST.
Similar to systems on the J-20 or the F-35, then?
Very much so. It lets the aircraft search for and track targets using heat signatures and visual sensors, crucially, without having to turn on its own radar.
Staying passive, staying hidden.
Precisely. And even the shape of that blister is important. The analysis calls it a faceted aperture design. Meaning even the window or opening for the sensors is carefully angled to minimize radar reflections. It's this constant balancing act. You need powerful sensors, but you can't let the sensor housing itself compromise the plane's overall stealthiness.
Capability versus concealment.
Yeah.
Now let's switch gears a bit. How does this thing actually move? The pictures of the rear end revealed some pretty interesting tech, right?
Very interesting. We're seeing two-dimensional thrust vectoring exhaust nozzles. That's a big deal.
Okay, break that down. Thrust vectoring.
Sure. Basically, it means the nozzles that the engine exhaust comes out of can move, they can pivot up and down. This allows the pilot to direct the engine thrust itself, not just rely on traditional control surfaces like elevators.
And the benefit is?
The analysis points out the similarity to the F-22 Raptor, and for good reason. It gives you superior maneuverability.
Right.
Think incredibly tight turns, really rapid pitch changes, things that are hard to do, especially at high speeds or high angles of attack. And critically, for a design without a traditional tail, it provides essential control authority and helps maintain stability, especially along the aircraft's length, what we call longitudinal stability.
So it helps make up for the lack of a tail while also boosting agility, doing it in a way that's still compatible with a stealthy rear end.
Exactly. It's that blend of performance and stealth, again, a really powerful combination.
And speaking of no traditional tail, there was something else unusual spotted on the wings in the close-ups.
Ah, yes. The unique swiveling wingtip control surfaces. These are fascinating.
They look different. How do they work?
Well, think of them as extra control surfaces right out at the tips of the wings. They can pivot or swivel.
Okay.
The idea is they provide additional roll authority and yaw control. Yaw is the side-to-side movement, like a rudder. Since there's no vertical tail fin with a rudder,
they need something else.
These wingtips, by adjusting their angles independently, allow for really refined attitude adjustments across different speeds and altitudes. It's like having tiny adaptive rudders at the wing ends.
Wow. So it's like China's engineer said, forget the tail, we'll use these advanced wingtips instead. Maybe gain some stealth advantage too.
It certainly looks that way. It's a clear example, as the analysis puts it, of them exploring non-traditional aerodynamic solutions to maintain control without sacrificing stealth. Real innovation.
Okay, so we've got the design, the stealth, the maneuverability. What about where the aircraft actually is in its development, the testing program?
Right. The program run by Shenyang Aircraft Corporation seems to be moving along quite methodically. They're deep into flight envelope expansion.
Meaning pushing the limits. Speed, altitude.
Exactly. Testing how it handles across its full performance range. Alongside that, they're working on weapons integration, making sure it can carry and potentially launch weapons and sensor validation, checking that all those systems like the IRST actually work as expected.
And there was something specific expected by mid-2025.
Yeah, the analysis anticipates airborne carriage of instrumented payloads. Basically flying with special pods or instruments attached to precisely measure airflow and aerodynamic effects on the airframe. That's a key step in validating the design.
So serious data gathering, and presumably lots happen on the ground, too.
Oh, for sure. You'd expect extensive ground tests of weapons bay doors, making sure they open and close reliably under different conditions, testing the hydraulic systems, the environmental controls for the pilot. All that crucial groundwork has to happen in parallel.
Makes sense. So looking at how other big stealth programs have gone, what's the educated guess on a timeline? When might we see this fighter actually operational?
Well, if, and it's an if the program keeps up its current pace, and sort of mirrors the timelines we thought with, say, the J-20 or F-35,
Hmm.
you could potentially see initial limited production starting as early as 2027
Wow.
and maybe reaching squadron service entry, so becoming properly operational with Air Force units around 2030.
Wow.
But again, that depends heavily on testing going smoothly.
Still, that's potentially quite soon in aerospace terms, within the next, 6 years for squadron service.
Potentially, yes. It shows a real acceleration in their development cycles, potentially.
And what about upgrades? Are they already thinking beyond this initial version?
Almost certainly. The analysis flags potential future upgrades like alternative power plants, think adaptive cycle engines, which are a next-gen engine type promising better fuel efficiency and thrust.
Hmm.
Also, conformal fuel tanks. Those external tanks shaped to hug the aircraft's body to minimize radar signature while adding range.
And sensor-wise?
Yeah,
Even more advanced stuff.
potentially. Things like experiments with quantum radar, if that pans out, or advanced low probability of intercept communications, ways to talk securely without being easily detected. Very cutting edge areas.
Now, is this something China might sell to other countries down the line?
That's always a question. The analysis suggests export prospects could potentially arise, maybe through partnerships with close allies.
Right.
But the sheer level of cutting-edge technology involved probably means sales would be highly restricted, maybe only to a very select few partners, if at all initially.
Background-
Sensitive stuff.
Understandable. It feels like this program isn't just about building one plane, though. It's bigger than that for China's aerospace industry.
Oh, absolutely. Every test flight, every bit of data adds to their growing body of stealth experience. As the analysis highlights, this project will inevitably influence their next steps. Like maybe unmanned loyal wingmen type drones that fly alongside piloted aircraft, or even their concepts for true next generation air dominance platforms. It's part of that whole evolution of aerial combat.
Towards AI networks, low observability.
Exactly. It's all interconnected.
And if things keep moving this fast, we might not have to wait too long for the next batch of reveals.
That's the expectation. If the current pace of testing and, frankly, image releases continues, we could be looking at a full aerodynamic evaluation and sensor trial, perhaps by summer 2025.
Which might include
That could potentially involve seeing actual weapon carriage tests, maybe getting some concrete performance metrics released, or even hints about initial production starting. It's definitely a program the global defense community is watching like a hawk.
So, just to kind of wrap our arms around this, these recent images have been genuinely game-changing, haven't they?
Absolutely pivotal.
Moving us from pure guesswork to looking at actual concrete design features.
Exactly. It didn't just answer that basic, is there a cockpit question. Wow. It really threw a spotlight on the sheer sophistication of China's low observable design philosophy. It's evident everywhere we've looked. The canopy, the fuselage shape, those thrust vectoring nozzles, the clever wing tips. It's a complete package, a holistic approach to making something very hard to find and very effective.
Okay, so for everyone listening, let's recap the key takeaways from this deep dive. First, confirmation. It is piloted, and it has this incredibly stealthy canopy.
Sure.
Second, it's packed with advanced stealth features all over, not just one trick.
Right. Fuselage, sensors, the works.
Third, maneuverability is clearly a high priority. See the thrust vectoring, the swiveling wingtips, especially for a tailless design.
The key element.
And finally, the test program seems to be moving quickly, with potential service entry maybe even before the end of this decade.
It's progressing rapidly, yes.
And it's crucial, I think, to see the bigger picture here. This aircraft could genuinely shift air power balances in its region and influence how air combat is thought about globally.
No doubt about it. It will definitely play a role in shaping future doctrines and strategies.
So here's a final thought to chew on. With China making these kinds of strides in stealth and maneuverability, how does this change the strategic math for other major powers? And what sort of countermeasures, what new technologies might we expect to see emerge in response? It's certainly not a static picture out there.